suffer from cyberbullying are highly vulnerable to these effects, having anger issues, depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, self-harm, suicidal thoughts, and substance use, or they can even drop out of school. The digital space technologies are bringing opportunities for learning and education to children, especially in remote regions and during humanitarian crisis. However, it is also making children more susceptible to harm online. This year's Day of the African Child's discussion is based on the right of the child in the digital environment. What are you doing to ensure your child's safety in the digital world?
It has just gone 8 o'clock Central African time. Good evening and welcome to the news bulletin at 8. But you by Eswatini TV. I'm Sanipo Ngongwane. Alongside Namakabe Songambule. We're coming to live from the Hospital Hill Studios in Babane. For your top stories at 8, we dive straight into it and take a look.
His Majesty King Eswatini III has officially opened the Luke Commission Miracle Center, a project worth not less than 200 million malangeni. The Minister of Health says the drug shortage in public hospitals is a thorny issue for them. The Minister for Tourism and Environmental Affairs says the tour operators that were trained in Eswatini have automatically become ambassadors who will market the country in their respective countries.
Hello again, and now for the news in detail. His Majesty King Eswatini III has officially opened the Luke Commission Miracle Center, a project worth not less than 200 million malangeni. Addressing the gathering, His Majesty applauded the Vanderwall family for allowing God to send them to Eswatini to help and serve Maswati. The event was also graced by the presence of Her Majesty, the Queen Mother.
The event, which was blessed by the presence of their Majesties, started shortly after the arrival of Her Majesty the Queen Mother, and then the arrival of His Majesty King Eswatini III at the Luke Commission at Ikorotom. Also present at the event were the Mokosigati to His Majesty King Eswatini III, the royal family, cabinet ministers, and many other dignitaries. The Luke Commission was founded in 2005 at the height of HIV and AIDS in Eswatini. The organization offers free health care and hope to the people of Eswatini in partnership with Maswati and the Ministry of Health. The Luke Commission has continued its outreach efforts over the years, taking services to the people in communities. And then in 2013, the organization opened a campus in central Eswatini, offering outpatient, inpatient, surgical, emergency, and critical care services. It is Their Majesty's vision and the nation's goal to develop health services in the kingdom. It is also one of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals that all countries develop and sustain their health sector. Addressing the nation, His Majesty King Eswatini III has applauded the Luke Commission for the great work, the love and care they give to Maswati.
Bekunene sithatha lithuba namuhla lekubonga nekudumisa njengoba sesivile ngamake nomsa babambisene naye umyeni ongakakhe Dr. Harry Vanderwall bake beta batongivusela bangibikela ukuthi kufika kwabo lapha kangwane befe kanjani bekunene sivile nangayo iLuke Commission ligalelo lelendile nakubonakala ukuthi live nemhlaba wonke njengoba bohlangabezana nalesimo lebesikhona kulamalanga se COVID-19 kwekuthi ligalelo leLuke Commission nakona lapho libe likhulu sibili kwabonakala ukuthi live lalibambisa ngekulapha eMaswati lamanyenti lavele aphilile afikile lapha aphuma asaphilile bekunene bekunene lo msebenzi lona noma kubonakala ukuthi kude laba kuchacha kwesiveni kepha ke of course ngoba konke na okwendako kuba nemali lezide sivile ke ukuthi ke bakhona laba babambisako lapha laba bonalisa ukuthi njoba bafake ekhathi USAID PEPFAR iCash Foundation kanye neFNB nalabanye labathinva nguNkulunkulu labaye bajike esivivaneni nabo siyabadumisa kanti kanye nabo laba boNomsa na Harry konke laba nako bayakwenda ukuthi bakuthathe bakuhlanyele khona lapha konke lokho siyakudumisa kakhulu imisebenzi labakhona ngokwenda lo msebenzi bekunene le Look Commission miracle namuhla kusukela namuhla seyivele ibusisiwe ngekwemsetho ebekunene.
The acting Prime Minister, Senator Themba Masuku, thanked their Majesties for allowing such an initiative in the kingdom. The acting Prime Minister also highlighted that the Look Commission has added to the number of health facilities that the kingdom has currently.
Ngandiphethe sikhulu nga1968 tindzawo temtholampilo eveni tatingemashumi lasithupha nje kuphela.
This initiative was founded by the Vanderbilt family from the United States. Mage Echo Vanderbilt revealed that things were difficult when they started this initiative, but they did not give up because they came into the kingdom to assist
Your
and serve
Majesty,
Eswatini.
serving the people of Eswatini is the greatest honor of our lives. We have found fulfillment and joy that we could have never experienced anywhere else in the world. Your Majesty, I speak today not for myself or for the Look Commission, but for the most isolated and underserved populations of our kingdom, those with the least access to care and treatment.
The organization has helped quite a number of Eswatini, and some of the people who have benefited have expressed gratitude to their Majesties for allowing the existence of the organization in the kingdom. His Majesty King Mswati III officially opened the center, which is expected to continue to serve Eswatini. His Majesty also blessed the construction of an outpatient department by cutting the sword. On the news, I'm Polile Mazia at Sitogoto.
The Minister of Health, Liz Ngosi, says the drug shortage in public hospitals is a thorny issue for them. The minister says it is a fact that there is drug and staff shortage. The minister said this in Parliament during a debate on a motion calling her to table a report on challenges faced by the health sector within 7 days.
This motion was moved by Eswatini Member of Parliament Mduduzi Matsebula and seconded by Imvonjeni Member of Parliament Sifiso Makakula, whereafter the House debated the matter.
Le motion ngeSpeaker la icela Minister ukuthi asichache noma lilanga selishonile. Kuthi ngabe iMinistry iyendani kuzama ukukhalima lesimo. Lenicabanga ukuthi nayo iMinistry iyasathi.
Ibhlungu lento lena kakhulu ishaya abantu nabala bangadli izambane lapondo. Bantu Mr Speaker lapha balakanyane lapha ukuthi usuka eMaswati alala ngaphasi embhedza egadze ehlobo tawo. Kude bonesi. Noma labakhona cha abasekho lapha. Sine blood bank Mr Speaker. That is only in name.
Mina ngafuna kuva ukuthi ngabe kukhona yini indvuna lecabanga ukuthi asikakwendi kahle siyiParliament lengafisa ukuthi siyibambise ngako kuze iphumelele kuloko.
Nakusik health, where do you go when the health is sick? Because lana we're dealing with a sick Ministry of Health.
Kuyashoda la etibhedlela, that is a fact. Nema human resources ayashoda, that is a fact. Njoba sihledi nje kuna 514 vacant positions ka health. Lokushoda kwemithi Mr Speaker, info lelinye vale likhulu kakhulu kithi ngoba asikhona ivele kusebenza. Part of it ukuthi sisina kuphuma lama budgets are released bese kuphinze kuphuma i-permission ukuthi sisebenzisane imali. Last year kwephutha kakhulu sasithenga sangendi njengaseminyakeni ukuthi sikhona ukuthenga enough ukuthi sikhushine nayi period yekuqala kweminyaka i-first quarter yeminyaka iba netinkinga letinengi.
The minister is expected to table responses in the next sitting. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosima Vimbela with Skumbuzo Dlamini and Temba Shabangu, Babani.
The Minister for Tourism and Environmental Affairs, Moses Vilagati, says the tour operators that were trained in Eswatini have automatically become ambassadors who will market the country in their respective countries. The minister was speaking during the certification of tour guides ceremony, which was held in Eswatini.
The Hospitality and Tourism Association of Eswatini, in collaboration with the Ministry of Tourism and ITC, have trained tour operators from different countries, including Eswatini, South Africa, Argentina, Italy, among other countries. The tour operators received certification from HOTIAS. Speaking during the ceremony, the Minister for Tourism, Moses Vilagati, commends the spirit of collaboration from different organizations that supports the initiative that encourages marketing Eswatini.
This tour guide course means that Eswatini has new tourism ambassadors who will not only promote the country to international and regional tourists, but will themselves come to the country as visitors the next time so they can see more of Eswatini. At this juncture, may I also importantly take this opportunity to commend and appreciate International Trade Center for the support they afforded tourism sector players through the trainings, partnerships, and exposure. The industry always benefits immensely from this support, and without it, it would be difficult for them to carry out some of the projects.
The Kingdom of Eswatini last month was announced as the most welcoming and friendly country in the world by the travel publication. Vilagati says this has encouraged the ministry to work twice as hard. Vilagati says the country received an increase of 139% of tourists in the first quarter of the year. Eswatini TV News, Ndomlangeni, Temba Shabang, Ezulwini.
Bean farmers in Eswatini are still unable to satisfy the World Food Programme National School Feeding Programme. Bengo Signene, who is the World Food Programme's procurement officer, says World Food Programme is looking for 34 metric tons of beans from local farmers this year. Gunene was speaking during the bean production stakeholders meeting that was held in Manzini.
Stakeholders in the agricultural sector in Eswatini had an opportunity to discuss issues around bean production in Eswatini. The World Food Programme raised concerns over the low production of beans, especially in meeting the National School Feeding Programme conducted by the UN agency. The WFP's procurement officer, Nkosi Gunene, says this year they are open to receiving 34 metric tons of beans from local farmers.
Demand yonke mabhontshisi seyi country office ingu 168 metric tons or 67 metric tons ilapho. Kodwa ke kuze ukuthi singano defaulter kakhulu ekuthenini simithe i-objective yethu sile office namhlahlangene kwenta kudla kube khona available for a project leswendako nafo bamlabalambili sibukela ukuthi ngcono simvulele umlimi loyo 34 metric tons sikhona lokukhutsata le production.
The Eswatini Grains Association member Vessel Marita says the Shiselweni bean farmers are faced with challenges such as the cost of bean production.
The import cost and equipment. Equipment is a big challenge. Storage as well for our grains and stuff.
In 2019, WFP had a bean demand of 117 metric tons, and local farmers were able to provide 78 metric tons. In 2020, WFP requested farmers to provide 233 metric tons of beans, while farmers were able to provide 2.35 metric tons. For Eswatini TV News, Ndomlangeni Mbongwa Dube, Manzini.
The Eswatini Pharmacy Business Association states that the reason for the shortage of medication and pharmacists is that some owners do not have the full understanding of the laws and regulations by the Ministry of Health, which regulates import of medication. The Public Relations Officer said these when explaining the reason for the shortage.
The public has complained that some pharmacies do not have some medication. The Public Relations Officer of Eswatini Pharmacy Business Association says another reason for this is that some pharmacies are illegal, so importing medication becomes a challenge as they do not have the right documents. He continues to say government should also work with them to keep them up to date on new regulations.
Sidzinga le indaba lokuthi sesihlale phasi nahulumende sima honors sitophuma nelikhambi.
The association states that it is yet to meet its members to update them on the pharmacy bill, which has recently been passed by Senate. The bill states that fines for irregularities in pharmacies is up to 50,000 emalangeni. For Eswatini TV News, Nelson Dlangamandla, Mbongwa Dube, Manzini.
The government of the Kingdom of Eswatini has sent a stern warning against certain individuals who are issuing life-terminating threats to the country's security forces using strong and aggressive combating terms such as quote-unquote targets in reference to Clement Slongonyane. The statement is issued by Alpheus Numalo, the government spokesperson.
The government spokesperson Alpheus Numalo says government rejects the threats issued by some proscribed entities and by certain individuals against the lives of National Security Service personnel such as Mr. Clement, who is one of the most fearless, cherished and dedicated officers in the Royal Eswatini Police Service. Numalo says these threats were issued through social media platforms by certain individuals whose organizations remain a proscribed entity in Eswatini. Numalo says government warns these individuals and entities that an attack to the national security officers will be considered as a direct attack on the nation and on the state itself. Numalo says this will be followed by dire consequences upon those responsible. Numalo says government urges those individuals and entities to desist from tendencies of threatening national security officers while in their line of duty and executing their constitutional mandate to enforce the law of the land. This is not only criminal behavior in terms of the Computer Crime and Cybercrime Act of 2022, but it is also a political naive for these individuals and entities to believe that they can advance their respective political cause through issuing threats to members of the security forces. Numalo says Mr. Slongonyane has survived a number of attempts to terminate his life, and this is a huge disappointment to the members of proscribed entities and individuals who have made him their target. Numalo says the nation has taken notice of these threats, and the long arm of the law shall one day catch up with those who have resorted into the politics of swords and spears. Numalo says government continues to urge the entire nation to create and safeguard the environment in their respective communities, which will allow proper policing to take place. Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni, Babane.
There's more news for you, but for now, let's take a quick commercial break. When we come back, the news continues. Don't go anywhere, stay with us.
Umsakazo wetithombe iEswatini TV utibophelele kuhlonipha nekulandzela umgomo wetekusakata loweluswe libandla letekuchumana eVeni.
Ngephansi kwalomgomo sitimisele kusakata tindzaba letenteka ngaleso sikhatsi tindzaba letide magama laqosheme letitsembekile letitsinza tonke tinhlangothi naletisebaleni
kusukela kutepolitiki, tetemphilo, tekulima, tetinkantolo netemhlaba wonke jikelele siniletsela tindzaba njengoba tinjalo ngaleso sikhatsi letenteka ngaso.
Kanzi kulo msakato siphindze sikulethele lonke luhlobo lwetemidlalo kusuka emidlalweni welibhola letinyawo kuye emidlalweni ledlalelwa ematafuleni kanye naleto letiqhamuka ngaphandle kwakuleli.
Leti tindzaba lotiletselwa ngumsakazo wetithombe iEswatini TV.
Welcome back. You're still tuned into Eswatini TV, and this is the news bulletin at 8 at Eswatini TV. Right about now, we give you more news in the world of business as we get a sense of how markets fared today in a financial report. Welcome back. News in the world of sports. The Football Association President Peter Smelane says the match against Togo is a do-or-die match, and as such it is important for the boys to come back with a win. Smelane was speaking when bidding farewell to the team as they left from Bombela in South Africa, where the match will be played.
The national team is left for South Africa, where they will take on Togo for the AFCON qualifiers. Sihlang is going to the game knowing well that they need nothing but a win. The president of the Football Association, Peter Smelane, says the players have all to do at this stage and they should fight harder.
Manhamba tubansito ukuthi uyahamba ezinemasotsha funa nokulwa yisi ngabe kusanje ngalesinye silwane ukuthi ngabe kusanje ngenja ukuthi ija uma ihamba noma uhamba nayo ilwa ihambile so ayikazi ukuthi itaze ibe ekhaya so ilwa ihambile nanani ke
Coach Dominic Nene says they know what's at stake, but they are not under any pressure.
Yes, sitamile kuhlanyela kulabadlali emcondweni but sakuhlanyela ngendlela lekahle lokungeke kube ingodi kibo. Shokuthi kubakhuthade ngeke ukuthi bekungabadlalisa kabi ukuthi kufanele bawina sikhathe nje ukuthi kube ngikona lokhu abakhuthade abadlali ngcono. Siyabathi kumqoka balekhendi siyakiyo siyathi nethoka ukuthi ithe kanganani lekhendi ngoba siqinza kahle ukuthi lokutawendeka ku Cape Verde thina nethoko la ngemuva singathikhanza nathi sinekhathi.
In other news, the Instacash School Sports Finals took place at the Mavuso Sports Center, where Evelyn Boring took on Spetapi for the crown of being national champions. The day started with Eric Rosberg beating Manzini Central in the third place playoff match. In the finals, it was Spetapi who showed more determination as they were able to beat Boring by a second half goal. Spetapi were crowned the champions and took home 20,000 emalangeni. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports News, I am Patizo Msibi with Linda Dlamini, Manzini.
With our sports news, we hit the home stretch of the news bulletin at 8 at Eswatini TV. But before we go, here's a quick reminder of news making headlines tonight. His Majesty King Mswati III has officially opened the Luke Commission Miracle Center, a project worth not less than 200 million emalangeni. The Minister of Health says the drug shortage in public hospitals is a thorny issue for them. The Minister for Tourism and Environmental Affairs says the tour operators that were trained in Eswatini have automatically become ambassadors who will market the country in their respective countries. Beautiful Kingdom of Eswatini, that's all we had for you from the news desk. We shall now cross over to the Weather Center for a detailed weather report from us and the rest of the team here at Eswatini TV. For now, it's a good night and God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
akumelene amabhasi abe ahamba neliwashi liqoloshe njalo libika kona ukuthi isikhathi sekubhalisela likhetho sesiyaphela sukuma nyalo ubhalisele likhetho selithumela emasumbeni ngwane tindzawo tekubhalisela likhetho tithe chithisa kavelonke ngete ngasala nasakhalive lethu